Welcome, my friends, to another episode of Heroes of Kriegeland. Today, we are introducing our good friend, Joseph King, right? Joseph King.
Joseph King.
So, if you want to just go ahead and give us a quick rundown of Joseph King, and then we will let you know where he is in the world and what he's currently up to, and then we will take it from there.
Okay. So Joe is just a no-nonsense kind of guy. He doesn't take lightly to being offended, either on his behalf or others' behalf. Seems to pick fights, even though he cannot really back that up most of the time. And he usually does it out of principle. He feels very slighted on behalf of others.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's gonna get himself into trouble that he need not.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He's got a very shrewd intelligence to him, where he's always trying to game things in game things in his to his benefit. And he's a little charismatic, but he's not your normal charismatic type. He's definitely more of like a dark, kind of more of a dark charisma, so to speak.
Okay.
Or where he's more apt to kind of spur people to action, to join him on one of his social justice calls, so to speak. He is human and a wizard, but he is going around trying to tell everyone he's a cleric for a god that does not exist. And
yes, heresy, my friend, heresy. A 13th god, you claim?
Yes. And he is addicted to coffee, and he is completely bald. There is no eyebrows, no facial hair, very shiny head. In fact, in anything other than low or at complete darkness, he has a negative to his stealth rolls
Okay, just because of how gleaming white his head is. Okay, I like that. There's always a reflective cue ball somewhere.
Exactly.
I got you.
Exactly.
That's great.
I've given him away more than once.
So, you are from the city of Maegos, or at least that is where you were initially. That's where you were initially to start this campaign, but you were recently kicked out of the famous Maegos Wizard College or Magic College because you were spreading your blasphemous tone about 13 gods. So if you look here, just give you a quick rundown of what's going on. While you're in Maegos, which is one of the more northern, it's on the northern side of Lake Azure-Glass, which is the main, obviously, like, topographical feature of the Kingdom of Kriegeland. As luck would have it, right about the time you got kicked out and you were trying to figure out what you were doing over a cup of coffee at the local tavern, you heard the announcement of the King's Caravan coming through town, and you started to notice like population spike, and you thought maybe there was just some travelers or whatever, but it just kind of got worse for about a week. And then you found out that the King's Caravan's rolling through, and the King is, and they forward the message everywhere you hear what's happening. The King is rolling his way to Crestcall, which is the newest settlement in Kriegeland at the end of the main road here along the coast. And the reason why he's doing this is because he's determined to establish a new team of what is known as the Heroes of Kriegeland. Now, the original Heroes of Kriegeland, you would know just by being from or around Kriegeland. It was the original, like, 3 high-level adventuring team that saved the kingdom from a very specific battle when the Deepwater Kingdom invaded Azure Gate. Tried to sack Azure Gate, the capital. And so the only surviving member, who's a wizard himself, the king has decided to commission a tournament that will be hosted by this wizard, and then whoever is the winner of the tournament will be the next trio of heroes of the land that will be trained and funded both by the wizard and by the crown. So, you thought it at least a decent idea to follow this big crowd of people, maybe whether to see what's going on or not, and it led you all the way to Crestcall itself, just, outside of Arkall. As you passed Arkall, you probably got a little bit of a hazing because you were still connected to the Mage College in Maegos, and the Mage College in Arkall is their bitter rival, so you might have got some ale poured over you or something because you exposed that you went there. Even though you got kicked out, the rivalry runs deep. So,
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. But
all right.
that's okay. That's okay. The stains come right out. I've got
That's
prestidigitation.
that's what we're talking about. And then people give you a side eye when you say that you're a cleric. So the township of Crestcall, which probably only has a population of like just over 1,000, it's just absolutely ransacked with followers camps and military units, merchants and circuses, and magicians and soothsayers and just everything you can imagine that has followed the king's caravan, because the king is doing kind of a he's new. He's the new king. It's his first year as king. His name is Alroy II. And Alroy II follows Alroy I, who was kind of a controversial king because he was a man of the people. So he had a lot of political strife with the elites, but he reigned in like a pretty prosperous and golden age. But he was unable to sire until his elderly years, and then recently died from falling off of a horse. So Alroy II has decided that it is up to him to kind of allow the kingdom to be comforted by his rule, and he's kind of doing his rounds. He's making his way through the kingdom, checking on things, talking to people, overseeing things. And on the way, he has paid good money and sings high praises of his tournament to be that will end in Crestcall, which is where you will end up. So you meet some other travelers from Maegos, and you kind of stick around until you get to Crestcall, where there's at least a certainty of a party. So you kind of end up there, and it's kind of just flooded. It is now the high holiday of Mathandis Feast, which is the summer solstice, and the king is expected to make an announcement soon, but you have a little bit of time to kill in Crestcall. I don't know if your character has been there or not, but I can give you a description of things to go, or if you have an idea of what Joseph would want to be doing, just kind of as events are kicking off.
Being that I am who I am, I'm thinking what he's going to do is offer up his services as a god of as a cleric of the unknown god Tatum, or Akal Tatum, his full name.
Okay.
We're on a first name basis, though. I can call him Tatum. Um, he's going to go offer up his services to cure people. He does have the ability to ritual cast cure wounds. So
nice. Okay, that's great. I didn't know cure wounds is a ritual spell.
It normally isn't.
Oh, I see. Because you got it with the ritual caster feat, is that right?
You got it.
Okay, good. All right. So, that's good. You so as you're kind of mucking about some of the more neutral like temple sites and things like that, and you're helping out with some injured guys from like a melee contest that's going on in one of the yards outside of a farm. So you're healing some guys that are concussed because he just took a baseball bat to the side of the head. And you gain some familiarity, and you kind of talk to some of the people that are around, and there's a certain faction of the clerical order, sort of. They're known as Grey Sworn, and it's actually technically an alignment, or like a sort of like a agnostic version of the world, where rather than disbelieving or choosing one god, which most people do, the Grey Sworn kind of like set themselves to be neutral amongst all the gods and try to just answer the call of whatever gods are talking to them at the time.
Okay.
So you actually get along pretty well with them.
Yeah,
because they're
yeah.
kind of they're open to just like interpretation of what the gods are trying to dictate. And most of them are like lifelong servants. Some people are just gray sworn as like their choice of deity, but like it's more of like a free. They just like kind of, some people just do it. They just do whatever they want and and say to everyone that that's what the gods are telling them to do. But it just depends. But no, gray sworns are kind of like, they're looked down upon in society just a little bit, but they do offer like a good service. So like people aren't like, they avoid them when they find them annoying. It's more of an annoying type of person rather than like a someone they hate or go after.
Gotcha. So Red Cross worker.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah. So
But shots fired.
yeah, so you do some healing work with them and kind of chat with them, and some of them sound like they're kind of excited about hearing about the new king. Some of them are like anxious because they think that there's going to be like a civil war that breaks out, because the controversy behind Alroy the First is that he was a knight in the court, and the king at the time called the court into order and renounced his crown and gave it to the knight and said he was the only one worthy of being king. And that caused a lot of political strife. And even though he ended up winning the battle of Azure Glass, the famous battle, which is what like launched him into like more of a popularity and kind of like subdued the political like problems, and he had a good golden reign. Now that he's gone, some of those problems seem to be kind of like murking back into like, so it seems like some people are excited for the new reign and they're excited about like the hype of the heroes, but there are others who are wary of like potential intrigue and maybe like a civil war could be brewing or something. So you get a little bit of, you get a little gossip, you talk to some people, you heal some people. Um,
Always good for gossip is
one
healing
one
people working
one guy is grateful and he gives you a small satchel for your alms box. And so
Oh.
you make yourself 7 silver, my friend.
Ooh.
Which is
7 silver.
you gotta stack those nickels and dimes when you're gonna be starting to buy every scroll in the book to put them into your spell book. So
I'm just one sick noble away from taking a 5-figure discount on a bunch of scrolls.
there you go. You just gotta find the right injured wizard that you render services to, and then
Yeah.
maybe just sneak his spell book. No big deal.
Hey, I only need to borrow it for a little bit.
That's true.
I'll copy it down and I'll give it back. You don't lose anything.
That's true.
This is a win-win.
Okay, so as you're kind of like talking and and you guys you and some of the Grey Sworn wander over and you decide to indulge in a little bit of the Methandus feast itself. The holiday itself is a giant feast thrown by the nobles and the churches and everything into like a day of free eating for all the common folk in like town center. And there's a giant like just array of like canvas tents that have been built into just this giant temporary feasting hall, and it's probably the most people you've seen collected in one area in like your whole life. And it's funny because it's all happening in a pretty medium-sized town, so this whole place seems just absolutely overrun with citizenry and merchants. But as you're snacking on some food, I'm not sure what kind of food you would find, or what you would like, but there's plenty of types to find.
You know, I'm fairly frail in that I'm still getting over an old injury. When
Like
I
frail and
was,
like anemic.
I'm not doing terrible, but I need to eat some meat, put some muscle back on this
Yeah.
body.
There's some roasts and some questionable
Yeah.
buttons, but it's worth it because it's free.
Okay.
So as you're snacking on some meat there, a series of trumpets blares out, and you see like the royal guard and some banner holders that like they kind of like rally about this really large wooden stage that's like built right into the center of town, pretty close to the feasting hall that you're in. And on the recently erected like wooden podium, a small boy in an ill-fitting crown stands up, And as he's about to give a speech, an elderly wizard who you may or may not recognize, they might have had pictures of him in like the wizarding college. It's Valerio Darkmoon, the only surviving member of the trio. He approaches and he casts a little spell on the king so that his like voice is augmented. And he speaks. And he says, "On this day of Methandis feast and the centennial of 5400, because it is now the year of 5400 of the high summer solstice. So the kingdom's also celebrating like a centennial marker. I, Alroy II, King of Kriegeland, hereby declare the official tournament of the Heroes of Kriegeland to begin. Everyone knows the story of the Heroes of Kriegeland, about the 3 brave adventurers that led the defense of Azurgate against the Deepwater Kingdom. The same heroes that vanquished the corrupted Grand Priest that had gained control of the great and powerful Tide Rake. Tide Rake is the goddess of water's artifact weapon. There have been a handful of artifact weapons that have been like talked about or storied on. They're all mentioned in like the religious scripts of the gods themselves, but they're just, god tier artifact weapon. Lysander Highforest, noble archer of the elves of the great Ebonwood, Victor the Pure, holy knight of Methandis, and Valerio Darkmoon, wizard of arcane mastery. As he says that he's like, and he gestures at the wizard. The same Valerio whose call to action has reached your ears and mine. Kriegeland will one day again need heroes, and we wish for the kingdom to revel in the knowledge of their protectors. And so, with the commission of the crown, we shall have the contest magically displayed for all of Kriegeland to bear witness to their new champions. Behold, Valerio's finest work, the arcane engine! And then the trumpets blare out and everyone cheers, and on a huge, magnificent royal palanquin, pulled by a team of horses, is a wooden stage and a strange brass and bronze like altar with glass tubes coming out of it, and some little like wire woven spires that end in some large gleaming and potentially magical jewels. And Valerio starts to like call upon these there's wizards and sorcerers and mages that are around him, and he's kind of like dictating them, and they're all going around casting spells and activating parts of the engine. And then once it is officially like kind of booted up, and as a wizard you even kind of feel like a little twinge of arcane kind of like wafting off of it, so you're like, whoa, that thing's cooking, like
that thing's taking some power.
Yeah, and they're like funneling like gold coins into like a slot like in the engine because it's like just eating up raw material components and stuff.
My gosh.
Yeah. So a big swirling kind of like fiery pink portal opens up next to it, and the king continues his announcement and says, "Any would-be hero within the sound of my voice has until sundown to approach the arcane engine. Valerio will assign you a runic symbol that will allow you to enter into the portal." And then trumpets blast again. The king removes himself from the stage, and then there's some people like there's cheers, some people speculating, and then you start to see little bits here and there starting to trickle through the crowd. Would-be and low-level adventurers and ne'er-do-well types start funneling in, and as they approach, Valerio casts a little spell on them, and then they walk into the pink swirling mass and disappear. What does Joseph King do?
I'm going to start looking through the crowd of people that are kind of with me.
Okay.
I'm looking for other people that I might be able to aid me in my cause.
Okay, and what cause is that?
The cause is that there's a lot going wrong with this country, and we're just funneling and dumping all this arcane energy and money into this thing. That high-pitched ninny over there is going to be just dumping money and resources into this while our roads are falling apart.
Oh my gosh. I didn't expect you to spark civil unrest on the Boy King's platform. Okay, I suppose roll persuasion. I mean, you could maybe justify deception. I don't know what your charisma stat that you want or whatever skill you think would apply here or what you have access to.
Oh gosh, none of these are great. Um, we'll go with persuasion
Okay.
and see if I can get some people to join me
Yeah.
as I try and sneak into the arcane engine to shut it down.
Okay.
Okay, that didn't go well.
What did you get?
A 6.
Okay. So you start to like a couple people like start to listen to you, but then a couple of guards overhear you and they see that you're kind of like and they catch you and you're kind of in your own head and like absorbed into your own like self-righteous
I was
speech.
going ham into my diatribe.
Yeah. So you suddenly get seized on both arms. They just kind of scoop your arms and lock you. And they're big, burly dudes, so you're pretty much under their power. And they drag you forward. And they drag you forward, and they yell. They're starting to yell. They're like, "This guy's trying to cause a trouble! Like, in the name of the king, out of the way!" And they bring you up to the stage. And at first, you're kind of like, "Uh-oh, like, I might get in trouble with like the king. This could be bad." And then the wizard Valerio comes up and he's like, "What's going on here?" And they're like, "This guy was bad mouthing the king and the arcane engine." And Valerio's like, "Oh, really? Well, let's see how he does." And he casts a spell on you, and then he points, and the two guards chuck you into the portal.
That went about as well as I thought it would.
I'm glad you failed because it allowed me to force you in. And
Well, I had another plan. I was going to go at it from a different angle, and I was still going to end up inside of it.
Okay,
so
that's great. I love it. Either way, it worked out perfect. So you come through the portal and you kind of like end and you're in this like sort of like just blank darkness. Like you're standing in like a void. You can see yourself just fine, but then everything else is just like the entire like details of existence are just gone. And then suddenly there's like a swirl of pinkish light and it rips into formation, and out of it steps a formidable wood elf female. She's tan of skin, scarred, and has clusters of green scales growing along her arms and legs. As she kind of like sizes you up and scoffs a little bit at your physical frame. She's a pretty lean looking like jungle elf from what you can understand or what you can get from her. And then a female voice kind of like echoes out from the darkness and it addresses you both and it says, "This is your partner. Please wait while your match is prepared." So
I don't suppose that you really want to dedicate this fight to the unknown god.
She like tilts her head. She's like, "What god?"
Uncle Tatum, the god of hidden things.
She's like, "Well, he must be really hidden because I've never heard of him."
Tell you what, if you're willing to name this fight in the name of Uncle Tatum, then I will give you his blessing.
She goes, "That's fine. I plan on winning anyway, but I guess we could take every advantage we can."
Okay.
Well, hit me with it. Where's the blessing?
So I start ritual casting ceremony.
Okay.
And I tell her, like, look, just kind of go along with it. It's all going to be great. Just go along with whatever I say. A lot of it's going to be arcane words and symbols, and we're dedicating each other to Uncle Tatum for this fight. Okay.
Hold on. Is ceremony player's handbook spell?
It should be.
The spell is called ceremony.
Oh shit! No, it's Xanthar's Guide to Everything. Never mind. Damn it.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't recall that spell, but You do have access to cleric spells, right? Is that one of them, or is that part of?
Yeah, it's Xanthar's Guide to Everything, but it's a cleric spell.
Oh, okay. Well, what does it do?
There's either there's several different things that it can do. It's either atonement, blessed water, coming of age, dedication, funeral rite, or wedding.
Oh, okay. So it's like, and does it just give you like a different outcome?
Different bonus, different bonuses depending on what it is. For atonement, I can make a DC 20 Wisdom Insight check. On a successful check, I restore the target to its original alignment. This is someone who's like alignment's been changed
Hmm.
from
Okay.
like good to evil or something
Right.
like that.
All right.
I can set them back to rights
Gotcha.
by some sort of from fixing some sort of curse. Blessed water, turn water into holy water.
Okay.
Coming of
What version
age.
would you use in this case?
I'm gonna tell her I'm doing dedication, but I'm actually wedding her to me.
Okay. I'm gonna allow it only for the sake of it's funny with the storyline, but also like because you like worship this weird like potentially false god and you're doing all this stuff that's like you're kind of a magic experimentalist. So in your mind and in your magic, you have now wed her to you, not to just
Yep.
okay. So
I'm telling you it's dedication, but this gives us a both +2 to AC as long as we're within 30 feet of each other.
oh awesome. So she's like, wow, I can really feel that blessing. I don't know what you did, but
And
like,
it lasts for a full week.
okay, she's like, I don't know what you did, but that feels great. Like, what is that?
just just the blessing of my God now that we've fully dedicated ourselves to him together.
Well then, she like kind of like clamps a fist together. I can't wait to sink my claws into the opponent, and she does this like thing where she whips her hand out and her green dragon scales like fuse around and she gets like a draconic gauntlet like
Okay.
scaled around her hand.